Bailey. I'm Deputy Editor with Journo Resources, and we're about to start a really fun session with lots of great stats and data that you can use to inform your own work going forward. So we are joined by Naomi Owusu of live blogging experts Tickaroo, who will be deep diving into why audience engagement isn't just a buzzword. Tickaroo makes it easy to turn live blogging moments into lasting connections with real revenue. And as co founder and CEO of Tickaroo, Naomi increases international growth and enables partners to reach their audiences and goals whilst promoting positive change within the digital media landscape. So, yes, welcome, Naomi. And would you like to tell us a little bit more about who you are and why Tickaroo cares so much about engagement?
Hi, Kaylee. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. So, as you said, I'm a CEO and co-founder at Tickaroo, and we build a live coverage software that is used by over 350 newsrooms all around the world. And we basically help them to reach their audiences and new audiences as well, to connect with them in real time and also to monetize that engagement. And what is really important to us is that we keep the editorial workflows with another tool as simple as possible. So it's a very easy to use software. And we have a long history in engagement. So when some of the co-founders started their career, we were helping as a consulting business to bring websites of publishers to mobile and even print products, not websites, but straight to mobile. And there we just realized how engaging mobile was. The iPhone was introduced in 2007, and we basically started there. We were especially focused on sports coverage. And we just saw how engaging live blogs were at this time with the real-time updates, not only the stats and the scores, but also the messages, the footage. And these live logs had a high retention, a media time, we call it these days, and a lot of views. So uh, after that, we moved to news, and we're helping our publishers to use this engaging format to connect with their audiences. And recently, we made a survey, and there are a lot of surveys out there. For some, the Digital News Report by Reuters Institute, and they focus on the audience side. And we know that side pretty well. And what we wanted to focus on in our survey was actually the people that make the news, the journalists, and in this case, especially journalists in their early career, so in an early stage. And thanks to the help of also the followers of Journo Resources and also the Sheffield University, University of Lancashire, and Northampton, we were able to get 172 responses to the study, and we had incredible, amazing insights. So the whole study will be released in November, by the end of November, but I just want to focus on some engagement parts of the study because that's pretty interesting. So we asked them how to tackle declining news consumption. Actually, 64 answered, 64%, not 64, 64% answered with more engaging format, which is really powerful, I think. Around 50% also answered fact checking and credibility, less sensationalism, community-driven journalism, and more diverse perspectives. I think that shows that it's not about clicks. It's not only about clicks, but I think it's really shows that engagement is a key to reach audiences and to build a connection, especially when it comes to a decline in trust and also news fatigue. Another interesting aspect, I have two more, I just want to share them. Another interesting aspect is when it comes to the preparedness with digital tools, live blogging, and AI and journalism. Around 40% answered that they don't feel well prepared with digital tools, and 40% said they don't feel prepared for live blogging. And that's even more interesting. 70% said AI and journalism is something they don't feel very well prepared for. So I think that shows like a gap between what's actually thought and how news are made. So I think that's also very interesting. And when it came to their motivation, why they started a career in journalism, there were, amongst other very interesting findings, such as holding power accountable, which was a minority, with which a majority answered as yes, that's something why we start our career. There also was like because we want to tell digital stories and we want to do multimedia storytelling. That was 40%. We want to serve the community, which was 35%, and we want to engage with our audiences. That was around 30%. So I think overall that's very good because there is like motivation to engage with audiences. I think there's also I think that the young journalists also see that's something you have to do, like it's a necessity in a job, and also the gap that not a lot of people feel well prepared for it. So these are the just some study findings that are focused on engagement.
That's so interesting. Some really interesting stats there. I guess something that I just sort of um, thought whilst you were talking about that myself is that you mentioned that in the study, um, people were looking for like more engaging formats. So obviously, there's been a big rise in things like short form video being brought into the news place as well. So how is live blogging? What are the strengths of live blogging in comparison to, say, a more multimedia format like short form video?
So live blogging is actually a format where a story is unfold. So you have like updates, and that could be like a short form video or a post or a poll, and you have like one topic around it. So it's a chronological sequence of posts to one topic. So I think that when it comes to your question, videos might be just one format to to uh, to um, to tell the story. But maybe you also want to put in a poll, or maybe you also want to have a commenting section and where people can ask questions. Um, and I think uh, in the end, it's the visualization is a different one because it's post by post. In a short video format, you have like one sequence after the other. So I think that could always be a part of it. And the good thing about the live blog there is, or the advantage is, you could always go back to like the comments, or you could go back to the polls, or you could go back to the video. So to answer that. Um, I think they're both very powerful formats. It's just a different way of consuming, and maybe the live blog is a bit more. Um, you might go a bit more into depth because you could always go back to content then.
Mm-hmm. So, in regards to like the next generation of reporters and like trying to be more interactive with their audiences, um, how can they utilize live blogging in the first instance in their roles, or encourage the use of that?
Um, we have a few formats within the live blog that you can use, and we also have stats on them because they're measured. We call them interactions, and the most simple way, also known from articles, are slideshow click-throughs. Obviously, so when you have photos, they could click through them. Then, what also is a very powerful tool is polls. Um, so create polls and ask users about a question about something. So, for example, we have seen a lot of success with the polls. That could be, for example, we had some polls on the coverage of the new Taylor Swift albums. There were two reporters making a review, but it was interesting because they had two different perspectives. So they brought it together in one live blog, and then they made polls around topics that were specifically important from their point of view. What we recently introduced is something that's called reactions, which is basically little emojis you can click to give like a reaction to a post. And we have like First League, a soccer team that uses the live blog to report from travels before the game, after the game, from training. The team does it itself. I mean, someone from the team does it, so it's very close to the team. And we just introduced it, and they used it, and we're up to 3,000 reactions now per live blog, and the number is rising with each live blog they make. You could always, what we also count is post sharing. So when people share posts actually, and what's really powerful are the comments. So there is a comment section where you could really start a discussion on a post. That could be a short video or maybe a quote or yeah, some insights, another article. And there are a lot of submission on the comments, and usually the journalists choose what they publish, what comments they publish. So it's curated. Yeah. And I think these are really good ways. It always depends on the live blog. So the comment section was made for the Taylor Swift frenzy, and people had this whole community thing where they could interact with each other, and they chose like comments, and they had up to 200 comments on this live blog. Our client stuff from New Zealand. Yeah.
So let's move forward in what do you feel like the most important factor is when it comes to engaging an audience? I guess that's like the example you just gave as well, especially with like Taylor Swift and how big like that community is worldwide is a really good instance to use for comparison as well.
I think it starts with the willingness to engage. So as we have like the results from the survey, it was not like 80 or 90%. It was around 40%. So I think um, uh, if you want to do a live talk, you should make sure that you're like the kind of journalist that wants to engage on this live level, because also like in a company, you have different types of personalities. Maybe you want to do like your research and write your piece. So I think the willingness to engage is really, really important. And then I think authenticity is also very important. I just saw a remix on Instagram yesterday with the old Arnold Schwarzenegger fitness video. And I was just wondering, why does that feel so unauthentic, you know? Because and someone was remixing it, like covering it, and it was so funny, and because it was so staged. And I think it's totally acceptable to be yourself, and I think it's not only acceptable, but it's necessary. If you want to have an audience that trusts you and believes you, I think you need to be yourself, and that's why I think that is also really important, to be authentic. Your willingness to engage. When you're really a shy person, then I mean, you could still engage, but just be shy as you are. I think that's totally okay then. And I also think when you use skills and polls, it's really important to listen to what people say so that you can react on it on the live blog. And I have a very good example. There's a guy in New Zealand, or a journalist called Paddy Gower, and he's also collaborating with stuff. And he has something that's called it's like a format. I want to know your beep news. Can't say the word here. And it's the format is also called Paddy Goers Ask Kiwis to share their top issues in New Zealand. So he has a live blog on Stuff, the publication, where he asks people, "Hey, what's your news?" And then he travels around and makes videos and talks about the issues they have. And I think that's a really nice format, and shows like a lot of engagement with the audience, and it starts in this format a live blog. And that's also what I like about the live blog. It's not only the live blog that makes it special. I think you have to create a whole world around it. We have a publisher in Germany. Actually, it's a national TV station, and they always make a live stream with a political discussion or debate. And with the live stream, uh, it's Q&A with citizens. They have this online format in the live blog where they would have like the commenting section, and they would also bring questions from the commenting section in the live blog, and people would be able to answer on that online as well. So they can participate even though they're not in the live setting on TV.
I thought it was quite interesting with the New Zealand example that you use there, because it's almost like inverting the reporting on its head. You're asking your community like, what is important to you, and then I will come that with you, and like the long term benefits of that sort of trust building within community engagement, and being receptive to like the people that are your own audience. It goes two ways, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You'll be like fostering that trust between you for years to come after that. You mentioned an example like right at the front of what you just said about I think it was like an Arnold Schwarzenegger post that got remixed or something like that, but you said it felt really inauthentic. So what was it that you identified within that felt inauthentic, and what prevented you from connecting with that?
Yeah, I thought it was funny, first of all. It was like out of this time. So it was like long time ago. I think that's why it didn't feel like real anymore. And then I was thinking about that. Why does it feel so unauthentic? And it's because there was like, so he was doing training for Nice Lakes, and there was a girl doing this training with him, and she obviously was in pain, but she was still smiling. So I think, I think that's why I found it so strange. And he was like very enthusiastic about this. Oh, you're gonna get a great body, and and I think if this video would have been today on Instagram, she would just have like made a face like, oh, damn it, she would just have like, she would just have reacted on that. And I think that's a good thing that has changed, because people would say, oh, that was funny, he telling her how to train and it's been really hard. And you could tell that she was in pain, but she was like, that's really good. Yeah, I think that's what made it unauthentic. Yeah.
What is the number one thing that we should focus on as journalists and reporters, writers, to engage our audiences if we're under a lot of pressure and have a limited time frame to, really get the message across?
Yeah. If you have limited time, I think still preparation is key. Just to go through the questions. Who are you engaging with? So who's the audience? What's the piece of content? How is it relevant to them? How is it relevant to them? And how can you, with a limited time, come like get the message across? And the easiest way to put into action into a live blog is the reactions, but then still it depends on the live blog. Where are you? Are you like, for example, are you at a concert, like a music concert? Are you able to make photos? Then you could put a lot of photos to put the atmosphere across. Maybe you can make like a very short video, and then just put reactions on there so that people get the vibe. Oh, others find this also interesting or nice, or really touching with the emojis. And also polls are really easy to make. So you could also ask them, if you're like at a more visual situation, what you want to see next, where should I go next, or something like that. Or if it's like a written report and you don't have a lot of time, and maybe you don't have a lot of time to prepare, also there, be authentic about it. maybe you can tell them, I didn't have a lot of time to prepare. Still, I want to share this because I think it's relevant to you, and just go with the story then. But I think preparation is also key in live formats. As far as you're able to do the preparation, depends on the situation.
Yes, that's a really good point. I was just thinking, like, out of like all of the kind of publications you've worked with, and like different kinds of news coverage, like sports, as well, like you mentioned up front. Um, what kind of tone, do you feel sort of works best in fostering engagement? Is it something that is, like, I guess a bit traditionally formal, or is it something that feels more personable and reactionary to the events that are happening?
That also depends on the situation. When we have a conflict situation, and we had a lot of them like the last couple of years and months, it has to be formal. It has to be formal based on facts. If you have like sports, for example, or entertainment, we have seen a lot of coverage in the live blog where there's not only one journalist reporting, but more reporting. And they are making a whole conversation. So they are talking to each other in the live blog, even
That's
sometimes, like making like jokes about each other, and they're letting, especially in sports, they're letting, for example, we had this in at the Olympics, but also with the Taylor Swift album release, the review. So they talked to each other, gave information, and also talked to the audience. So it was a whole conversation. And I think when I read this as a reader, like from as a reader side, it just feels like, yeah, like they're my friends, It just feels very personal. Um, and I think that's really powerful. And I really love that in the live blog when it gets really interactive, not only audience and journalists, but also in between the journalists as a group. Or we also had this in one more example, because that's a serious example. That was the election, not US election, not the last one, but the previous one, and they had to go in shifts because it took so long. And they were talking about that. Okay, I have to go to bed. My colleague is now taking over. Good luck with that. I hope it's going to be soon over. And that was just like you feel with them. You see, okay, they're human too.
yeah.
And I think that's really important that we see journalists as human. Yeah,
Mm.
authentic.
What are your tips for encouraging engagement from a more niche audience then? Not just, covering the news or sort of
Mhm.
big, like sports, like big sporting events. Like, what about like more of the niche audiences?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there because the niche is very engaged in opinion. I mean, we have it from the creators. So if you're reporting for niche content or niche audiences, you should make sure that you know the niche, um, and know the ongoing discussions. And I was recently on Emerging Tech Network talk as a listener, and there the CEO, I think she's now CEO of Mumsnet, just was talking about how they structure the platform and everything. But I think the interesting thing she said there was, we don't have a lot of content regarding to other platforms, but we have like the forum. So it's not the content. People don't come for the content or the scientific, I don't know, scientific news about being a parent, but I think it's about the community there. And I think that's something that counts for a lot of niche content, live blogs or other pieces, that you want to be part of the community. And as you know this as a journalist, give them the opportunity to talk to with the comments or maybe the polls, or ask them questions like Paddy Goa does, So what are your topics right now? What do you think about, if it's a product, what do you think about the new Android phone? Or what do you think about if it's indie music, what do you think about this album release, or movies? So I think the discussion for niche content is key. Yeah. And give the people voices because that's what they want. They want to exchange. They want to feel part of the community.
It's quite interesting that you mentioned like the forums there, because obviously that's like one of the, like, I guess, oldest, more traditional forms of internet community. So with live blogging, it's an open forum, whereas forums are closed. So, how is there that sense of, can you talk me through, or your thoughts on that, like generating that sense of safety in this more dynamic and, fluid environment?
Yeah, that's a big, 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 big issue. And so how we've seen it, I can only speak for our product. So we have a commenting feature where you can choose from the comments. I think that's also what most publications choose to do. So they curate them. But that would mean that you need someone who looks through the comments as well. And we've seen this in especially the national TV station. They use it a lot. And as you can imagine, they don't have only nice and friendly comments. So what they do is they set community rules. They set total clear community rules. And if you don't ally with them, your comment is also deleted. So it would say, okay, this comment was deleted because it was like hate speech or something like that. And sometimes even when people spread misinformation, I've seen it as well, they would just very neutrally objective correct that. So someone said that some minister is not anymore a minister or something like that, and they just corrected that, answering to the comments. So I think you need to be also, um, uh, I think it's a big job, because it takes time to do that. But I think it's important not to say, okay, we're not doing it because it's too much time, because it's just a small percentage that is causing the damage. And there's so many people just craving for this, a comment section because they want to be part of something. So I think it's worth taking the effort. And if you don't have too many people, I would always recommend going with the curated version where you choose from the comments and then give answers so that some people have the chance to answer those questions.
Mm-hmm. Thanks so much for going into so much detail with that. I'm just aware of the time, so we're sort of got about 15 minutes left. If there's anybody watching that wants to send any cues in for Naomi, we can address those as we go along. But we do have a few more questions on our end as well. So do you have any specific examples of, interactivity that has transformed news coverage, or like, what did you learn, or was there something that didn't work as well that you were able to take forward?
Mhm. So I'll start with what didn't work. There was a press agency and they reported that to us. They had a book fair, a German book fair, and they wanted to do a live blog and sell those to publications, and no one was interested at all. So it was pretty post by post. So I think maybe choosing a specific topic of the book fair or like a theme or something that would have in this time in this group, like we said, would have been more specific to them. And there are some very nice examples where I think a lot has happened. So there was, it's a Zeit Online, it's a German publication, and they did a huge piece. It was not only the live blog was only a part of it, um, uh, on citizens. So they wanted to represent all of Germany using 49 people, like different lifestyles, different political opinions. So they chose 49 people and made interviews with them in a video format, and it chose live blogs to release them from time to time. So you could follow the live blog and you could see like all these variety of lifestyles, people's opinion, backgrounds, and they also won a prize for it. And I think that's really powerful. Everything coming together, like you have this, they actually called it slow blog, and we took the name for blogs that go on for for days and weeks, you know. But they chose this format to release a new video, release the interview, also the article about this person, and that went on for a couple of weeks leading up to the elections, just to show the diversity of the population. And I really loved like the effort that was put into that and what came out of it and for what purpose also. I really like that. And I also think this interaction between digital and live stream TV, um, it's also very powerful. I think like making the experience seamless. It's not only digital, it's not only the video, it's not only the live blog. I think that's what I find transformational, that like some publisher are just switching almost naturally through the formats. I know it's a lot of work and a lot of effort. I know that, but it as an audience, you feel like, okay, I can comment with my mobile phone. Okay, I'm sitting at home. I'm watching the live stream on the discussion. Maybe I want to follow it when I go shopping, and I just take my phone. So I think catching up with all the options that we have with all the devices, or I watch it on my Alexa screen or anything. I think that's the biggest challenge, but I also think that's what makes it most fascinating. And it's not easy, I know.
It's not easy. Um, we had a really interesting question submitted, um, which sort of, I guess, reflects a bit on like the safety element that we touched upon earlier. But how do you balance the gatekeeper role of like traditional journalism with the more participatory nature of interactive engagement? Because obviously, that there's less control when it comes to like editorial or ethics. So, are there any kind of methods or rules or tips that you have for maintaining that sense of integrity?
Being authentic, that's my dog. I don't know if anyone can hear him, like being authentic. um, is I think is key. So always report to readers, like what situation you are, because the live blog has like the little icon where it shows that the journalist that is reporting. We even have little profiles now where you could click on those and find out a bit more about the person if they want to. I mean, that's totally that's not like if someone wants to. Um, and I think if you're in a situation where you have sources that are not reliable, or you're seeing something, always like report in what your circumstances are. I think that's really, really important to say, I'm not sure about this, or could be that, or it seems like, but we need more information about that. I think being authentic is key. Also, always mentioning where the information is coming from. I mean,
Mm.
these are the basics that also count for a live blog, but there you do it live, you know, there you have to do it live. And I think users understand that. I think that users and users, sorry, audiences, we call them like in computer language users, audiences understand that. They, especially young audiences, I think that's what they expect. They know that things evolve, that things change, that there's always a status quo and it can change. And I think be authentic about that is very important. Yeah.
I guess with like obviously live blogging's been adopted quite a lot within the sport, like you mentioned, it's within newsrooms, it's sort of becoming more prevalent when it comes to political coverage of like big events. Um,
Mhm.
but what would you say is perhaps the single bigger single biggest like internal barrier to more interactive journalism within a newsroom setting, and how can publications editors look to sort of overcome that and advocate for that within the newsrooms going forward?
So what I have seen talking to newsrooms and when we do the onboarding and when we have the discussions, also our investor is a publisher and I'm also involved in discussions there. You have your existing revenue models and those are working more or less, like more or less in recent times, but still there's a lot of revenue there. And I think when it comes to should we try something new or not, it's always about, oh, how are we going to make money with this? And I think there has to be like justification if this is going to make money, even if it's a small effort. Just let's just try it. And I think that's the biggest barrier. If someone has an idea and just wants to try it, there has to be a huge justification for that. But I also think that inhibits innovation because sometimes you need to try things, also new revenue models. You could make like a sponsored blog, for example, or you could work with ads, or you could work with custom ads in a live blog, or you could make it a service piece, service journalism, for example. Or you could put it as, okay, we're going to drive subscription with that. But I think as it's not the way money used to be made, there's always a huge discussion, I feel, from my point of view, there. And yeah, when we started like making like websites mobile, there was so much money spent and nobody was even asking. And I think like from this experience, they spent, I think, millions of euros or pounds. And I think from this experience, not asking about the return on invest, they've become very more cautious also with the declining revenues in certain areas. And I think that's like the biggest issue that innovative young journalists have when they have a great idea. Uh,
Mhm.
Someone is coming into the room. How are you going to make money with it? Come on, please let me try. I have a concept, but we need to try it. I think, and it's important to try things also as we work in the company. Sometimes we do things because we want to try them, but everybody knows, okay, it's just for the reason that we want to try. And it's an investment that might fail, but you learn from failure. It's also important to fail and to learn what did not work. You also need to know what did not work, and therefore you have to try it.
How would you, in that case, then, just following from that, how would you best advise organizations, teams to start trying live blogging? Would you like identify a specific role to take it forward and like really run with it and plow into it as a new format? Or would you try to adopt all of the reporters on the team into like giving it a try with, their own stories? Which would you feel would be the tactic?
I think I would go for both. I would collect ideas and then I would ask like the livestock provider. I would just like give back the my sales team is going to kill me now. Ask them how am I going to monetize this? So I would brainstorm with the tech provider. How can we make money of this and find solutions that you can pitch internally? So the mixture of stories that you have, and then asking maybe also commercial and the tech providers, and how can we monetize this? Maybe I think that's the best solution working in a team, is I think the best solution for that, and then pitch the idea.
What would you say, like aside from like the monetary aspect, how would you
Mhm,
measure success in regards to the actual like live blogs themselves? Like what sort of factors can teams look at and think, okay, like this is really excelling, we should be doing more of it, or in different areas
mhm,
of our journalism?
mhm. Um, that depends on the publication. I would definitely look at what the audience is watching, consuming, reading, and when they are doing that. And I'm like a data person. I love looking at data. very boring, but data tells me stories, to be honest. So I would look at my data, and I would also look at maybe if you have like a comment section, or for sure you have like one on social media. I would just look for what they're talking about, where are the most comments, where are the most reactions, where are the most where's the most connection or feeling, and then I would like think of what I have to offer and where I can report on, and then I would make my cases. I mean, that's also like from a business perspective, what I do in the business. I mean, we listen to the newsrooms, we look at the data, we look at the demands, and then we try to create a case or a feature that actually helps like the audience and the editors to find a meaningful conversation with the live blog. I mean, we're limited to our format, but we still have a lot to do.
And obviously, so much of live blogging is to do with the connection, but and like I guess like the figures and the click throughs, as you know, measuring the data as it comes in, and to see where it peaks in regards to like areas of interest or where it declines. But you know, sort of taking the like the data and the method out of it, how can people ensure that, like, you know, monitoring and prioritizing the engagement side of it doesn't compromise the integrity of the journalism itself? Do you have any sort of thoughts on that?
So the coverage that I've seen, I don't feel I feel it's very authentic. I don't feel that people were posting for the sake of getting more engagement or more data. I really think what I've seen from the live blog, it was like picking up on the conversation, picking up on the conversation of the audience, but not about numbers. So there were no sort of sensational. Maybe there was like I don't remember what it was, but someone reported Wimbledon, and there was like a funny gif going around about the grass, you know. So they just put that there, but I feel like it's not about the engagement; it's really about the conversation there, and that's again authenticity. So if and I think if you're not authentic about how you're reporting and what you're reporting, people will stop looking at the live blog. I think in this format, it's totally key. Yeah.
I guess to sort of conclude on like a personal aspect, then, like, what is your like one favorite thing about live blogging as a format, and why do you think it is the future of journalism?
Um, the favorite thing, like in my situation, is I just feel like I'm live. I'm getting live reporting, but I
Mm-hmm.
can take a pause from it. I can go back to it. I don't feel pressured. So, in a world where a lot of news bits and information coming from multiple channels, I just feel like when I choose a live blog and I choose like a publication and I choose a journalist, they are becoming like more important as a personality. And I follow them, like I did, for example, with the Taylor Swift album release in the middle of the night. Um, I just feel I don't feel pressured, you know. I can get up, I can brush my teeth, I can look at it, you know. I can maybe listen to the next song, and it's kind of life situation, but there's no pressure on it from an audience perspective. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Naomi, for talking us through the art of live blogging and engagement today. Before we close, like, how can people find out more about Tickaroo, and how can they get in touch with you?
So you can find Tickaroo on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. Just write me a message if you have any other questions. And I also think make sure to get the study. I think that we're sending out an email afterwards. So the survey, not the study, the survey. It's really interesting, and I hope that the survey will inspire like more studies and also maybe more Q&As and obviously more solutions to a lot of challenges. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for everyone else for joining us as well.